Coretta Scott King. Coretta Scott was born in 1927 in Marion, Alabama, to parents Obadiah and Bernice McMurray Scott. Coretta Scott attended Lincoln High School in Marion, which was a private school where she first began developing her skills as a musician. She learned to read music, play several instruments, and she also learned to sing by taking vocal lessons. Her developing skill set allowed her to become a pianist and the choir director for her church by the age of 15. Scott graduated as the valedictorian from Lincoln High School in 1945. She next attended Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio on a partial scholarship. Scott's older sister, Edith, was the first African American to attend Antioch College. Her concentration in college was music and education, which she would graduate with a Bachelor's of Arts around 1949. After graduation, she would attend the New England Conservatory of Music in Boston, Massachusetts, on a fellowship where she earned an additional degree in voice and violin. Scott would become an active member of the NAACP, Race Relations, and Civil Liberties committees during her time in college. In 1948, Scott would publish an article in Opportunity magazine titled "Why I Came to College." She stated that being a college graduate gave her a better chance at freedom of movement and greater opportunities in life. She would also meet a man by the name of Martin Luther King Jr., who would eventually become her husband. Scott and King were introduced by Scott's friend Mary Powell in 1952. The couple was married in 1954, forming a union that would help change the world. The King family would produce 4 children, which Scott was able to balance raising, along with supporting her husband, as well as continuing her own work within the civil rights movement. Scott often performed as a singer during civil rights concerts during the 1950s and 60s. The concerts helped to raise funds for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Scott would accompany her husband as they traveled the world petitioning for justice for Black Americans. In 1962, she became active in the disarmament efforts, which led her to becoming a part of the Women's Strike for Peace delegate in the 17-nation disarmament conference in Geneva, Switzerland. Scott was by her husband's side as Dr. King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 because of his unrelenting stance on liberty through nonviolence. April 4, 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, following a strong stance against the war in Vietnam and his rights for equality. Scott would display her grief because of the loss of her husband, but she never slowed down her fight for civil rights. Not long after the burial of Dr. King, Scott led a walk fighting for the rights of sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee. Her next step was to carry on her husband's Vietnam War message at a rally in New York. She would also be instrumental in the launching of the Poor People's Campaign in May of 1968. Her efforts to help make this world a better place never slowed one bit. Scott served as the founding president and one of the original organizers of the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change. Scott was an avid public speaker and columnist who was very instrumental in creating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day as an official holiday. Martin Luther King Jr. Day became an official holiday in January of 1986. She was also instrumental in creating the 20th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, which brought 500,000 people to Washington, D.C. Scott was also one of the most vocal opponents of South African apartheid. She participated in demonstrations and sit-ins throughout the world to help bring international attention to the issue. She would also develop a lasting friendship with Winnie Mandela, the wife of the South African President Nelson Mandela. The two would remain active in working to help fight for women's rights and safety. Scott would die in January of 2006 in Mexico at the age of 78 as one of America's brightest heroes. Scott's legacy will often go overshadowed by her husband's legacy, but her contributions to humanity are second to none. She was more than the wife of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She was a leader, a mother, a musician, an orator, and a fearless agent of change. She traveled the world promoting peace, unity, and equality during the time where violence against blacks were at an all-time high. She did not allow fear of racism to hinder her from supporting her husband and helping to make this world a better place. Miss Coretta Scott King, we proudly stand on your shoulders. For more information, please visit www.ontheshoulders1.com.